Hello and welcome, Exiles, to look at my Fortify stacking Divine Blast champion. Divine Blast being a new shield skill where you throw it on the ground, it has a bit of a delay like Earthquake, and then explodes with a bigger radius AoE. You can hit twice with this skill. Ultimately, this build was trash in terms of clear until I added Herald of Ash, because that delayed shield throw where you hit the ground, it has a small AoE and then it has a bigger AoE. It's kind of hard to scale the radius on that, and the clear was, waiting on that was rough. But once I added Herald of Ash on top of having a multi-link like damage support for my shield charge, all of a sudden I could shield charge through packs, get some nice explosions, and that helped a lot. And I didn't get that set up until like the tail end of this character, and I really regret not doing that earlier, because man, does it feel a lot better shield charging through a pack and having it blow up. Now let's talk about the scaling on the character and what we're doing with this build. So you may notice we sit at a cool 59 Fortify constantly, with the ability to click focus and go up to 69 Fortify. That definitely wasn't intentional, or was it? You'll never know. I get this Fortify through a few sources. Number one is Bacon of Madness. These boots, while you have Glorious Madness, give 18 max Fortify, which that's a big part of our 59 to 69 Fortify we get. Number two is Celestial Brace. These give up to 10 Fortify. If you get a really lucky Volatile Val, you can get up to 12. I Volatile Valed like 30 pairs of gloves. I did not get above 9 once, so good luck. And then you can also get max Fortify while focused from your chest piece. So whenever we focus, we have 4 seconds of 10 extra Fortify. It's basically just a really nice window of extra burst damage, and I'll try to explain why we're getting damage for Fortify in a little bit. But as for other Fortify sources, you can get Lethal Prides, which give Fortify. I have Fortify here, Fortify here, Fortify here, Fortify somewhere else here. Yeah, so we get a lot of Fortify from our Lethal Pride. You can look around on Timeless Jewels. There's a lot of notables within this area right here that you can check. 3 to 5 max Fortify, plus double damage, plus Intimidate. You can get some really good Lethal Prides. Just shop around for one that's more in your price range, because some may be more expensive than others. I shopped around. I found one that was like 100D on listing, and then I found another one that was like 5D, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get that 5D one, which is roughly comparable in power. Next up, you get Fortify from this wheel here. So this is where all the Fortify is coming from. Lethal Pride, this tree, or this wheel here, and then the Focus Mod, the Bacon, and the Celestial Brace. You could technically push Fortify a bit further if you had Replica Badge of the Brotherhood and you were scaling more max endurance charges. The problem with doing this is it gets very hard to get proper expiration rate of debuff on your character, to the point where this Embrace Madness becomes a real big downside. Now let's talk about Embrace Madness real quick here. What this skill does is it effectively says, I'm going to put a delirium debuff on you every 2 seconds, and those debuffs get refreshed in duration every time they stack on each other, and there's 4 of them. There is one that kills your flask power, there's one that makes you slower, gives you reduced action speed, there's one that kills your recovery rate, and there's one that just outright makes you take increased damage. They're very bad debuffs. They can stack up to 10, and if they get to stack up to 10, your character, it becomes pretty much useless. So in order to deal with this, you can stack a lot of expiration rate, debuff expiration rate. There are 2 breakpoints, 150% and like 235 or 236. I would highly recommend going for 235 or 236. 150 is playable. I played a decent amount with it, but ultimately the 200 plus number just feels oh so much better, and I'm going to explain why. So the way this thing works is every 2 seconds, it picks one of 4 debuffs to put on you. And the base duration of these debuffs, I believe, is like 10 seconds or something along those lines, or it's 20 seconds. The TLDR is, with 150% expiration rate, you get the debuff to be below 6 seconds, which means before it gets to the 4th proc of applying a debuff, it'll remove one of the other debuffs. And the 235, 236 number means you're below 4 seconds, which it only gets to apply a debuff 2 times before the next one is removed. And what do I mean by that? So what you'll see is, this counter of debuffs over here, when it's picking a chance to basically stack on another debuff, it'll refresh the duration. You'll see whenever one of these is chosen that is ticking down, if it chooses the same one, let me just see if we can get it to choose the same one. It's not doing it right now, so we're only getting like 1 stacks. So you see how it chose this one right here, this Wasting Touch, and then the debuff duration refreshed. The idea is if you get it below that 4 second mark, it it only gets 2 attempts to choose the same debuff that's already on you to refresh. Whereas if you're at the 6-second mark, it gets 3 attempts to choose the same debuff and refresh the duration. The TLDR is, if you get to that 235, 236 number, you're for the most part, I mean, we got all the way up to 5, which was actually kind of crazy there. But for the most part, you're only going to be at 1 to 2 beat debuffs, generally speaking, which is very manageable. Like, for example, the action speed debuff is 6% reduced action speed. If it's just 6% reduced occasionally on you, it's not too big of a deal. If it gets up to 5 stacks, you're looking at 30% reduced action speed. If it gets up to 10, your character is basically immobile. So that's why you want the high expiration rate. Now let's talk about how we get to that expiration rate. There's basically a couple sources. It's your warped timepiece. This can roll up to 122 with volatile vowels. So I have 116 on mine. It's B, your Pantheon. I have Soul of Aracali, which gives 20% expiration rate. It's C, your Warp Tattoo, gives you to another 30% there. So that's 166% I have total. And then D, and most important of all, which is Temporal Rift, which gives debuff expiration rate based on how much quality you have on it. And I have on this, it looks like 63 quality on it. Oh, and there's one more source I'm forgetting about that I'm going to show you in a sec. But anyways, this basically, if you attach Enhance to it or you attach Eclipse to it, you can start pumping its quality, and you'll see it's giving me 63% expiration rate of debuffs. Now, if you're a mathematician, you'll notice I'm around the 220-ish range. The one source I forgot was this Ascendancy right here. The Delirium Ascendancy 15% into You're the Crazy One right here. And that gets us to that 235, that magic number where it only gets to apply 2 stacks before it chooses to cycle off, and you're much less likely to refresh durations of debuffs. Now, speaking of this Ascendancy, I have to say, this is actually one of my hidden favorite Ascendancies of the Bloodlines that I didn't quite respect when I saw it. When I saw this Ascendancy, I was like, 15 seconds to build up a debuff. Am I really ever going to notice that? And here's the fun part is, as far as I can tell, I swear it applies when bosses are doing any monologues. It's like, it's kind of crazy. I'll showcase it. I have an Uber Shaper here that I'm going to showcase to give you an idea of how good this Ascendancy point is. And you'll notice in a lot more fights. Any fight that has any sort of dialogue or lead up, I swear the debuff is applying to that enemy before they are targetable, which is like really, really convenient. So I'll try to showcase that on this Uber Shaper here to give you an idea of how much it's doing for the build. Aside from the expiration rate stuff, that is how we're getting basically the not bad debuffs, and that's giving us the max Fortify. As for what the Fortify is giving our character offensively, because I said it was offensively, is a lot of attack speed. The attack speed scaling for our shield skills is generally hard to get. There's not a lot of nodes in the tree that give you attack speed with shields. Also, this doesn't count as a melee skill or a projectile skill. It's not tagged as either, which puts it in this like awkward limbo phase. So we need to get some generic scaling. And how do we do that? Well, we have a Ascendancy from Champion called, let's see, pull it out right here. This one, Unstoppable Hero, which says 3% attack speed per Fortify above 20. It also gives 3% more armor and evasion above 20. So what that means is when I'm sitting at 59 Fortify, that's 40 roughly above. That's 120 attack speed from that Ascendancy. And obviously if I focus, there's another 30 attack speed on top of that. So that's like 150 attack speed. But it doesn't stop there. We also have these gloves, which give attack speed per Fortify. So there's another 69 attack speed. So we're getting well over 200 attack speed whenever we proc the focus, and a little bit around 200 attack speed whenever we aren't proc the focus from just Champion and the gloves. So it gives a ton of attack speed. So that helps with the generic attack speed problem where you can't really find a lot of it available out throughout the tree for shield skills. But number 2 is it also gives damage through the Perseverance belt. Perseverance says based on your lowest evasion or armor, I'm going to give you 1% damage per 200. Our character has around 120,000 as our lowest here, which is like 600% damage. And then if I press focus, it goes to 140, which is closer to 700% damage. So we're getting a lot of generic attack speed and generic percent damage, which is usually somewhat hard to get for a shield skill build. because they don't count as a projectile, they don't count as a melee. There's a lot of like not a lot of support for it on the tree, and that's kind of helping us a lot, getting some of that scaling that is a little bit more awkward to get, I would say, for the character. On top of that, it doesn't hurt to have 100,000 plus evasion and armor because it makes you quite tanky, I should say. Now notice how slow Shaper's already moving. This fight has just started like 5 seconds ago, and he's already moving like a snail. And look at this. During this ad phase, his head desyncs from his body because he's being slowed down. Look how slow this ball phase is. He is moving at an absolute snail rate because it applies to him during the phase. Like, it's no joke how much easier this makes these sorts of fights because of how much of a delay there is in their mechanics compared to what they would do normally. So hopefully that's kind of showcasing the power of the Ascendancy when I'm talking about that. It makes him like, it slows him down during phases where you normally couldn't target the enemy. Like, let's say you're a build, like you're an Elementalist with a big 40% chill. He goes into that phase, the chill runs out, and all of a sudden he's doing that phase at normal rate. Whereas this thing, as far as I can tell, it's applying to him at full capacity while he's doing that ball phase. Also, it built up before the phase even started. I'll try to demonstrate this. When I walk up to him, you can see any enemy that's being applied by the delirium effect has this like gray outline on their character, kind of like how my character has the gray outline that's showcasing the glorious madness is being applied to them. And you'll see it when Shaper goes to do his dialogue. You'll see him turn gray before he's targetable. So watch this. Look how he's already gray. That's the debuff already stacking up while he's doing this dialogue. And this is every boss as far as I can tell. And it's part of the reason where this Ascendancy, I thought it wasn't going to be good. Because in my brain, I was just thinking, okay, here's this debuff that, I probably could have tanked that. Our armor's pretty high and we have like Fortify and stuff. I guess my endurance charge doesn't ramp right now because I have endurance charge on block and I didn't get hit to like block and generate. And I have endurance charge on kill, but during a boss fight, it's just like if you kill them really fast and they don't even hit you, they're not going to give you endurance charges. But anyways, as I was saying, the debuff, I really slept on it because I thought it was one of those things where it's, 15 seconds, I have to wait for this to be useful. No, it's useful because any boss that has some sort of build-up dialogue all of a sudden has max ramp by the time they start actually doing the fight. And it's really strong because it also gives you 60% increased damage taken, which is a huge damage multiplier. Not to mention the it bricks their recovery rate. So if you're running like Maven content where Maven's like trying to make him heal or stuff, it does stuff to that as well. I'm gonna chicken out. Oh, he's doing the phase and I just waste all my flasks. Whoops. All right, so anyways, you'll see him. His head is literally disconnected from his body. That's the desync of how slow he's moving. And then you have this phase, which just goes way slower, which makes it a lot easier to dodge if you wanted to dodge it, per se. We'll try to finish this off here. All right, so yeah, that's what it looks like doing an Uber Shaper on the character. And hopefully that's a good demonstration of why I think this Ascendancy point is so strong, is because it makes the enemy really slow. Now, real quick, going over some of the other gearing, what's going on with the character. One, solving mana. We get minus cost on our jewelry. The new mod on the tree, I think it's over here. Or maybe it's this one. There's one that, 5% chance to fracture a veiled mod. If you kill or beat up Elrion, he can drop you rings with veiled mods that are fractured, and you can unveil fractured mana. That's how we got this. You can also just manually fracture yourself, but that's -10, and I have that obviously on 2 rings because we're Calandriing it. And then we have reduced mana cost on our helmet, plus reduced bench cost on our rings. So this essentially makes our skill cost next to no mana, and that's why we don't necessarily need mana leech or anything like that, because we're just reducing the cost of our mana skills down to nothing, so we can reserve a lot of our mana pool, and it's fine because our skill basically is free. So yeah, that's solving our mana. As for other things, this is obviously a huge chaos ring to help us solve our chaos res, and then we get a bunch of Ellie res throughout our gear, like our body armor, our helmet, and then on some like jewels and stuff. One thing you'll notice that was a little bit awkward for me to set up is you'll notice I'm at like 280 of each attribute. I forcibly went for the breakpoint to get Eclipse into the build for the extra quality and the extra +2 levels. This was pretty rough in terms of attributes because I did do a attribute jewel here and my reservation cluster. I went for some attributes as well. Um, do you necessarily need to do this? You could probably just run Enlighten. The main thing you would have to solve for is you'd have to make sure you still had enough expiration rate. And the way you'd have to do that is instead of anointing this node right here for like a max Fortify, you would anoint this node here, which gives 15% debuff expiration rate. That would allow you to drop Eclipse, and they would give you all this freedom of not needing this many attributes. You could go just the main attribute that would be somewhat hard to hit is you still would need 240 something in for this thing, but that is an alternative option where you don't have to do as much effort to balance your attributes like I did. Like obviously I have Fortify, or I have strength node here, strength node here. I went for a small cluster that had attributes on it. Like a lot of that stuff was self-induced pressure because I wanted to force in Eclipse. Eclipse ultimately could just be replaced by something like level like 3 Enlighten type of thing, and you'd be chilling on reservation space. You just need to anoint this to get to make up for the loss of quality on Temporal Rift. That's all I'm trying to get at, because that was what this was allowing me, was it was allowing me not to use this just to get one more extra Fortify so I could get to 69 on the on the focus. Anyways, so yeah, that's talking about that. As for the rest of the gear, I just went for fracturing the Hysteria mod for AoE to get a bit more AoE on our explosion. Then we have AoE on unveiling on our helmets, and we tried to squeeze in a little bit of extra AoE where we could. One of the big bummers is, like, for example, this cluster right here, which is 40 AoE. This doesn't work with our character at all because it says melee skills, and this skill isn't tagged as a melee, and it isn't tagged as a projectile. So it's honestly one of the most frustrating parts about trying to scale this skill is there's so many situations where it's like, oh, projectile this or melee that you cannot use because it's not tagged as either for some ungodly reason. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're playing this build. There's a lot of things on the tree you might want to use, but you just can't because it doesn't have either of the tags necessary. Okay, some other bits of information is we are doing Trinity. I have Trinity imbued on the Divine Blast. You can also imbue other support gems, but I think this was one of the better ones because at level 1, it still gives you 30% more damage, which is very strong for level 1. As for other options, let's say you want more consistent power charges, you could do power charge on crit, and then you could grab like this one crit charge here or one power charge here. That would make your crit chance a lot more consistent throughout mapping. You could go for something like damage on full life. There's other options you could go for, but that's just, I think Trinity's the best. And the way we're balancing for Trinity, this is a skill that converts 50% of damage to fire. We're converting another 40% to cold here. And then we have a Grace of the Goddess, which has a lot of gain of each 3 elements, so that we're consistently hitting with both. In order to notice if Trinity is proccing, you need to look at your top left and see if all 3 of the colors are lighting up. Aside from Trinity, we're dealing with resistances with the Flip Res, Invert the Rules, very good for any elemental build. Makes res maps feel pretty good when normally they would feel not so good. Obviously, we have the Mastery plus the 10 pen node over here, and that pairs very nicely with the Invert Rules. So that's some of the damage scaling. Obviously, Fortify for attack speed % damage, some Invert Rule stuff, Trinity scaling. And then as for... I didn't really talk about it, but Emperor's Vigilance, you just can't really beat the shield for shield skills. You can make like a mirror tier shield at like triple synth, and you'll still have less armor, less evasion, less ES. You'll just have lower damage. You can be tankier with a rare shield, but you will not do more damage. I'd recommend the 20 quality one, and if you get really ambitious, you can Volatile Val Orbit to try to get a higher number. Caution about this is I did this myself, and I had it took me 17 shields to get one positive roll. I was like rage volatile Val Orbing these because these shields are 20D. You could just use the 20D version without corrupting it. It'll have like 500 something ES and like 2500 armor. It'll still be very strong. But anyways, I was thinking I'm gonna make my own special roll, and I poofed 12. and I had 4 that went negative rolls. I sold back some of the bricks, and I didn't sell this one because I'm gonna just keep it as a monument to the fact I hit an absolute minimum multiplier. As you can see, the 780 is a 0.78 multiplier on it, so that was cool. The top roll is obviously the 1.221, and so yeah, a little bit of caution is if you go to Volatile Valor, but just know it can go horribly wrong. I could have bought a better shield for like at the time there was a 1200% roll for like 150D, and I managed to spend close to 400 divines to get this roll after only hitting one positive roll in 17 Volatile Valor. So just a word of caution, you know, when you go to make your own with Volatile Valor, it can go horribly wrong. So keep that in mind. All right, I think that covers the majority of the character. A little bit of extra stuff is we did some large clusters with Battle Harden for the armor and evasion scaling, plus some of the fizz works pretty well. Iron Breaker or any other fizz notable. Ideally, you'd want like Furious Assault or Force Multiplier, and I couldn't get them on the travel node normally. If you do the Delirium Fog to like re-roll, you can get a notable that'll be in the back and then have the right notable in the front. That's like more investment if you want to do it, but that would beat Iron Breaker if you want to get a better like DPS cluster. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the character. Obviously, we're using Seething Fury as well for base crit plus crit multi from the character. And yeah. Oh, one more thing. If you're wondering why I have no accuracy on my build, worthy foe, taunt enemy, enemy can't evade, don't have to invest in accuracy. It's a pretty solid node. All right, I think that officially does cover the bulk of the character. Was a pretty fun build. Would I recommend this skill? Ultimately, I think this skill is just weaker than Shield Crush or Spectral Shield Throw. Its base fizz damage just does not scale very well. Just for real quick context, this skill does 3 to 5 base fizz per 15 armor. Shield Crush at this level does like 10 to 12 or something. Like the amount of flat fizz this skill is given compared to the other shield skills is just really, really not good. It does have the double hit where one hit deals twice the damage, and that helps. But the thing is, Shield Crush, for example, can hit multiple times with multiple waves and stuff like that. So it's just, I think, quite a bit weaker than other shield skills, but I just wanted to play it and I had some fun doing it. This is the shield throw Fortify stacking champion. And next up, we're going to try to do a Void Shockwave character. So we'll see how that goes. As always, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care and peace out. Have a good one.